There's a shipwreck off the coast of the Canary Islands that tells one of the most incredible stories of rise and fall in maritime history. What started as America's most elegant ocean liner ended up becoming a twisted pile of metal slowly disappearing beneath Atlantic waves. This is the story of the SS America, a ship that carried presidents' wives, transported hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and ultimately met one of the most dramatic ends ever recorded. Few people realize that beneath the waters near Fuerteventura lies the remains of a vessel that once represented the height of American luxury and engineering. The SS America wasn't just another ship, she was a floating palace that would serve her country in war, carry immigrants to new lives, and finally become a cautionary tale about human ambition and the power of the sea. The story begins in 1938 at the Newport News Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company in Virginia. Workers were constructing what would become one of the most revolutionary ocean liners of its time. The SS America was being built with a secret weapon that no other ship possessed, an interior designed entirely by women. This decision shocked the maritime industry, which had always relied on male designers for their grand vessels. These female designers created something completely different from the dark, heavy interiors that dominated other ocean liners. They chose contemporary designs with lighter colors and more sophisticated layouts. The goal was to make passengers feel like they were staying in the finest hotel rather than crossing a dangerous ocean. But the designers' most daring decision was to equip America with unusually low funnels to give the ship a sleeker, more modern appearance. This design choice backfired almost immediately. The low funnels caused massive soot deposits to cover the entire deck, creating a maintenance nightmare that would plague the ship throughout its early service. Engineers scrambled to modify the funnels, but the damage to America's reputation had already begun. On August 31, 1939, the SS America slid down the launching ways with Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady of the United States, smashing a champagne bottle across her bow. The ceremony was attended by thousands of spectators who watched the massive 723-foot vessel enter the water for the first time. Mrs. Roosevelt's sponsorship wasn't just ceremonial, it was a statement that America represented the finest the nation could produce. A year later, America embarked on her maiden voyage with capacity for 1,202 passengers across 3 classes and 643 crew members. The ship's maiden voyage revealed the stunning interiors the female design team had created. Passengers walked through Art Deco lounges, dined in restaurants with panoramic ocean views, and slept in cabins that rivaled the finest hotels in New York or London. But America entered service during the most dangerous time in modern history. Europe was already engulfed in World War II, and German U-boats were prowling the Atlantic. The ship's operators took extraordinary precautions to keep their vessels safe. They painted America and United States lines in massive letters on both sides of the hull. 2 enormous American flags were also painted on the ship's sides to make absolutely clear that this was a neutral American vessel. The precautions went even further. When America sailed at night, every light on the ship blazed to announce her presence and nationality to any submarines lurking below. In January 1941, the ship was secretly fitted with a degaussing cable, a defensive system designed to protect against magnetic sea mines. America also avoided her intended North Atlantic route, taking longer southern paths to stay away from the worst U-boat hunting grounds. These measures worked for a while, but America's days as a luxury liner were numbered. In May 1941, 8 months before Pearl Harbor brought America into the war, the U.S. Navy commandeered the ship for military service. America returned to Newport News, where workers transformed the elegant ocean liner into a gray military transport vessel, redesignated USS West Point. The transformation was dramatic and heartbreaking. Workers ripped out the beautiful interiors designed by the female team and replaced them with utilitarian bunks. The ship's passenger capacity increased from 1,202 to an incredible 7,678 troops.
Anti-aircraft guns were mounted on her decks, and life rafts were installed everywhere possible. The floating palace had become a warship. But America's wartime service revealed a shocking security breach that would become part of FBI legend. Two German spies, Franz and Erwin Sigler, had been working aboard the ship, gathering intelligence about American ship movements and defense preparations at the Panama Canal. They were part of the largest espionage ring in American history, known as the Duquesne Spy Ring, led by Frederick Joubert Duquesne. The FBI's investigation uncovered 33 German agents operating throughout the United States. The Sigler brothers had been using their positions aboard America to photograph documents and report on American naval activities. Their arrest led to the largest espionage conviction in U.S. history, with all 33 agents receiving prison sentences. The case demonstrated how deeply German intelligence had penetrated American society. Despite this security breach, USS West Point became one of the most successful troop ships in American history. Throughout World War II, she transported over 350,000 troops, more than any other troop ship in the conflict. She carried soldiers to Europe for D-Day, brought wounded veterans home, and participated in Operation Magic Carpet, the massive effort to bring American servicemen home after Germany's surrender.
West Point's service extended beyond troop transport. She carried prisoners of war, displaced civilians, USO entertainers bringing shows to homesick soldiers, Red Cross workers, and even children being evacuated from war zones. The ship earned 4 campaign medals, recognition of her service across multiple theaters of the war. When the war ended, West Point returned to civilian service as SS America in 1946. The ship resumed her original New York to Europe route, but the world had changed. Air travel was becoming more popular and affordable, cutting into the ocean liner business. America still attracted passengers, but the golden age of transatlantic travel was ending. In November 1964, America was sold to the Greek-owned Chandris Group for service between Europe and Australia. The new owners added 350 passenger cabins and renamed the ship SS Australis. They were capitalizing on the profitable European-Australian emigrant trade, carrying families seeking new lives in the Southern Hemisphere. For 14 years, Australis successfully operated this route, but by 1978, even this market was declining. The Chandris Group sold the aging ship to Venture Cruise Lines in New York, and this decision would begin America's tragic downfall. Venture Cruise Lines proved to be disastrous owners. They failed to maintain the ship properly, allowing her to deteriorate rapidly. Passengers complained about leaking pipes that flooded cabins, plumbing backups that created unbearable conditions, and mattresses so worn they provided no comfort. The once elegant dining rooms now featured soiled linens and generated pungent odors from poorly maintained kitchens. The ship's exterior wasn't much better. Venture applied a cheap paint job that began peeling almost immediately. Trash accumulated in corners and corridors. Passengers reported cockroach and rat sightings throughout the ship. America, once the pride of the American merchant marine, had become a floating health hazard. The breaking point came during one cruise when passengers literally mutinied. Shortly after passing the Statue of Liberty leaving New York Harbor, passengers demanded the captain turn around and return to port. They refused to spend another day aboard the deteriorating vessel. The captain had no choice but to comply with their demands. Venture tried to salvage the situation by attempting another departure, but 200 additional passengers disembarked at Staten Island rather than continue their voyage. The company faced over $2 million in claims from angry passengers. The U.S. Health Department gave America a devastating rating of just 6 out of 100 points. Venture Cruise Lines was forced to sell the ship. The Chandris Group repurchased America for just $1 million, a fraction of what they had sold her for, and renamed her Italis. But even they couldn't save the deteriorating vessel.
They quickly sold her to Intercommerce Corporation, which planned to convert her into a prison ship. This conversion never happened, and America continued changing hands between companies with increasingly desperate schemes. Silver Moon Ferries acquired the ship and eventually sold her for scrap. A merchant put down a deposit but defaulted on payments, leaving America in legal limbo. By 1992, the once magnificent ocean liner had become a maritime orphan, unwanted and deteriorating in a Greek harbor. That October, a company with an ambitious plan purchased the ship, now renamed SS Alfredos. They wanted to convert her into a 5-star floating hotel off the coast of Phuket, Thailand. The ship was renamed American Star one final time, and preparations began for the 100-day journey from Greece to Southeast Asia. What happened next would determine American Star's final fate. The journey began successfully, with powerful tugboats pulling the retired ocean liner through the Mediterranean Sea and into the Atlantic Ocean. For weeks, the convoy made steady progress toward the Suez Canal and their ultimate destination in Thailand. But in the Atlantic waters off the Canary Islands, disaster struck. The tow lines connecting American Star to her tugboats snapped during rough weather. The 53-year-old ship, with no engines of her own, was suddenly adrift in one of the world's most dangerous stretches of ocean. Strong Atlantic currents immediately began pushing American Star toward the Canary Islands. The tugboat crews fought desperately to reconnect their lines, but the waves and wind made it impossible. Within hours, it became clear that American Star was going to run aground. On January 18, 1994, American Star slammed into Playa de Garce on the island of Fuerteventura. The impact drove her firmly onto the rocky shore, where massive Atlantic swells began pounding her hull relentlessly. The ship that had survived World War II and transported hundreds of thousands of people had finally met its match. Salvage discussions began immediately between the towing company, the ship's owners, and insurance companies. But while lawyers argued about responsibility and costs, the Atlantic Ocean was already destroying American Star. Within just 48 hours of running aground, the constant pounding of waves had cracked the ship's hull and broken her in two. The sight was both spectacular and heartbreaking. American Star's bow section remained partially above water, her distinctive profile still recognizable to anyone familiar with classic ocean liners. Her stern section quickly disappeared beneath the waves. Maritime experts declared the ship a total loss, but her destruction was just beginning.
Over the following months and years, the Atlantic systematically dismantled American Star piece by piece. The cargo hold, once used to transport supplies during World War II, was completely eroded away by 2004. The port side of the bow section collapsed into the churning water. The remaining funnel, successor to those problematic low funnels from her maiden voyage, finally toppled over. By October 2006, American Star had almost completely collapsed on her port side. The ship that had once stood proudly in New York Harbor was now a twisted mass of metal being consumed by the sea. 6 months later, even this remnant disappeared below the surface, leaving only occasional pieces of debris visible at low tide. The complete destruction took just 13 years, remarkably fast for such a large vessel. By 2013, American Star was no longer visible on Google Maps satellite images. The ocean had completely reclaimed the ship that had served America so faithfully during World War II. But the story doesn't end with American Star's disappearance. In 2019, a team of divers investigated what remained of the shipwreck beneath the Atlantic waters. They found that the hull and superstructure had completely disintegrated, scattered across the ocean floor like pieces of a massive puzzle. The divers discovered that marine life had colonized the wreck site. Fish swam through spaces where passengers once danced in elegant ballrooms. Coral grew on metal that had once gleamed under ballroom lights. Nature had transformed the remains of America Star into an artificial reef, giving the ship a final purpose in death.
Only a few recognizable pieces survived the ocean's assault. The divers found the ship's massive boiler, built to last and still intact after decades underwater. The anchor chains on the forecastle remained, heavy links that had once secured America in harbors around the world. One funnel section was also discovered, a remnant of those troublesome low funnels that had caused problems from the ship's earliest days. The wreck site became dangerous for another reason. Before American Star completely sank, looters discovered the grounded vessel and saw an opportunity for profit. They created makeshift zip lines to reach the wreck and strip it of anything valuable. Brass fittings, portholes, furniture, and anything else that could be sold found its way into the hands of scavengers. Some treasure hunters attempted to swim out to America Star, but the same powerful currents that had driven her onto the rocks proved deadly to humans. Multiple people drowned attempting to reach the wreck, sucked underwater by the relentless Atlantic currents that continued pounding the Canary Islands shore. The SS America's story represents one of the most dramatic rise and fall narratives in maritime history. She began as a symbol of American luxury and sophistication, designed by women to create a new standard for ocean travel. She served her country heroically during World War II, carrying more troops than any other vessel and earning her place in military history. But America also demonstrates how quickly fortunes can change. Poor management and the decline of ocean travel transformed the elegant liner into a deteriorating hulk. Her final voyage to become a floating hotel ended in disaster, with the Atlantic Ocean claiming one of America's most historic ships. Today, few people remember the SS America's contributions to American history. Her role in transporting troops during World War II, her connection to one of the largest espionage cases in FBI history, and her representation of American maritime achievement have largely been forgotten. The wreck site off Fuerteventura serves as an underwater memorial to an era when crossing the Atlantic meant weeks aboard elegant ocean liners rather than hours in commercial aircraft. Marine archaeologists consider the site historically significant, though accessing it remains dangerous due to the same currents that destroyed the ship. Environmental scientists have noted that American Star's remains created an artificial reef that supports diverse marine life. The ship's final transformation from luxury liner to underwater ecosystem provides a unique example of how human artifacts can benefit ocean environments when properly situated. The SS America's legacy extends beyond her individual story to represent the entire golden age of ocean travel. She was built when crossing the Atlantic was an adventure, when passengers dressed for dinner and spent days enjoying shipboard entertainment. Her destruction marked the end of an era when ships like America connected continents and cultures. Her story also serves as a reminder of the ocean's power and the temporary nature of human achievements. No matter how grand or well-built, all ships eventually succumb to the sea. American Star's rapid disintegration shows that even vessels built to last decades can disappear within years when exposed to natural forces. The SS America traveled millions of miles during her 55-year career, from the glamorous transatlantic routes of the 1940s to the immigrant runs of the 1960s and 70s. She witnessed the rise and fall of ocean travel, served in humanity's greatest conflict, and finally became part of the ocean she had crossed so many times. Today, the waters off Fuerteventura hide all that remains of one of America's most historic ships. The SS America's journey from Newport News shipyard to Atlantic graveyard encompasses triumph, service, neglect, and ultimate destruction. Her story reminds us that even the mightiest human creations are temporary, but their impact on history can last forever. The next time you see old footage of elegant ocean liners or read about World War II naval operations, remember the SS America. Her story connects the glamour of pre-war travel, the heroism of wartime service, and the tragedy of abandoned maritime heritage, all ending in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean off a small Spanish island where few will ever know her final resting place.